All right, it has live on there. You guys can still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yay. All right.
Out of the room.
Oh, this is so great. Well, I've got some questions, guys, in here, too. But, you guys actually are in the room. Do you have any questions you guys want to have right now I can answer for you?
Oh. No, I've got all my questions ready for Monday.
Okay. Oh, good.
Is it illegal for employees when they do dumb shit?
Well, that happens a lot. And unfortunately, you just have to be firm with your handbooks, be firm in what you need, and don't settle. A lot of people are settling because right now it's getting harder to find new employees. So, hi, honey, which is awesome. So, all right, I'm going to go by script here then, just to let you know. So, bear with me, guys, okay? But
go ahead.
You guys are in the room, so feel free to ask questions too. All right. So, welcome. I am Marcia O'Connor, CEO and founder of the O'Connor Group. We do outsource HR, outsource recruiting. I feel like we have our tribe on the call today, so very excited to be here. First question is from Karina. What factors would you take into consideration when deciding between working on your own side hustle versus with your spouse on their business? So, and there is a description in there and all too, but I'm just going to go right straight forward to the answer. I think it really depends on how strong your relationship is with your husband or your spouse and all too. And there are some companies that it works really well, and there's a lot of companies that doesn't work very well. You want to be very clear about expectations, about who's doing what, and you don't tell. I hear a lot of times, we'll figure it out along the process. That causes anger and issues. So what I would do is just make sure that you both have an agreement ahead of time about who is doing what and what the expectations are and all too, because a lot of fights have happened because of that. But yet again, there's a lot of companies that have done really well with joint partnerships with wife and spouses. So let me know if you need any help on that. But just like I said, the clarification, communication is going to be very clean. And just make sure you have a third party, like an advisor too, that you can reach out to, that you both can reach out to, that doesn't side with one or the other, because you're going to need someone else to talk to. I know my husband is not involved in my company, but another group I'm involved with, they have a spousal forum, and so all the CEOs, their spouses are part of this forum group to talk about how to deal with us, triple, personality people, and how to work with it, and how to understand each other better too. So it does help, but communication is going to be the key for that. All right, number one. Number two.
I did answer this question because my wife and I work and live together. And one of the biggest things for us, and this is just a nugget for everybody, is, everybody has a role. And that has to be clearly defined. Because, and I said in my live, you have to go home with that person.
Right.
And the biggest thing that my wife and I have done to help our marriage and our work relationship, and it sounds crazy, but I think you'll agree, we drive separate vehicles to work every day. It gives me my time. I leave on my time. She can leave at her time. Nobody's waiting for anybody. And the less anxiety and less dependent we are on each other, the better we are at work. Because the home life transfers to the work life, and the work life transfers to home, and that separation is super, super important. So before going into it, those were the things that have helped us. After 20 years of living together, 15 years with the business, that was key for us.
And Nick, you brought up some great experience, and you're basically sharing your own personal experiences there too. So I can't thank you enough. But you're right; it's the communication, but that freedom too. Now, do you have like a separate advisor that you guys could go to?
Our office manager is our ringleader. She kind of mediates, and she'll point to my office when it's time for me to go to my office and be quiet. And she keeps us from doing this. We're getting better at it, but yes, Amber usually sings to us when we start yelling at each other.
you need somebody. You really do. Because what's at stake is the company, and then I know feelings can get hurt, but there's a lot of money involved in that, and that you have to keep that in mind too, I love that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for sharing your experience. That's awesome. Anybody else want to share? This is great to have this live room here with all you people. It's so good to see everybody.
Yep.
That's awesome. I love it. All right. Next question from Nicole. is there a checklist, for lack of a better word, I can use to make sure I'm covering all bases as I start a partnership with a complementary business? And her description is, I'm a life habit strategist and help clients create better habits that lead to permanent weight loss, better eating habits, better morning and routines, stress and anxiety reduction. I'm partnering with a local fitness person as I do not have a fitness component to my program. We're creating a separate business name and we'll conduct workshops and programs that incorporate both of our services. That means payment could go either to each of us separately for a joint gig, or we can create a separate PayPal or something for joint payments. I know there are a bunch of legal things to consider. They're just a place to start. So here's number one. Whenever you're working with money, and this is really key, you want to make sure that somehow there is some kind of a record of who's getting that, because that's income coming in, and somebody is going to get taxed on that. And so it comes really down to the taxes, but you want to make sure that there is an agreement set in place as to where the money's going, how it gets accounted for, and who's basically, taking care of all the taxes and all. I would highly recommend talking to probably another attorney to set that up and to make sure that you're doing it properly. Because if you do really well and it gets really large and there's money involved, people get really weird about money. And you just want to make sure that you have a system and a process in place, and that communication is very clear about where it goes, who's responsible for it, and who's actually doing the tax returns. Okay? Because that will haunt you both. And people get really, really strange when things go really well, because the more money that makes, the more they claim it. So I would be very cautious about that and make sure you have a really strong attorney. Okay? All right. Anybody on the call want to share anything about that experiences? I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, we're going to keep going. Go ahead. Nick, you're going to say something. No, you're good? Okay. All right, next question. Sanal asks, if you have some extra cash in business, what would be your next move to grow the business? And the question is, I'm in title searching business. We provide B2B services. Our clients are title insurance companies. Now, to be honest with you, this is an interesting question, and it really depends what you want to do. Yes, you could actually, you could invest more in your own company. You can invest if you have extra cash, if you want to hire more people. I always say, if you really want to grow, use that extra cash right now to hire really good employees and get your processes set up, and also put some infrastructure in place regarding systems and all too. But if you have that already taken care of and you want to do more, I can tell you there's a lot of stuff happening with investing into companies right now. There's so many startup companies that are happening out there, and they're looking for like angel investors. So a lot of people are looking into that, or basically putting it into the just as an investment. I think you should talk to a financial advisor about that to figure out the best way to do that. But for me, I like putting money back into the company and making sure we have really good systems, processes, people, and making sure that because salaries are increasing and you want to get the best and the brightest. So that's how we usually invest a lot of our funds here. And also too in regards to benefits, and every person you bring on board, it's an additional expense to your benefits, so you want to make sure that you capture all that. I think it depends upon what you want and where your goals are. So sit down with somebody to figure out what the next 5 years looks like for your company and then what you want to do, because that money could go to so many different ways. But be careful too, because it's an investment, it's a risk. So you want to make sure what's the best way to get the best value out of those dollars. But that's a question. You got to just sit down and put a big piece of paper in front of you and write out the pros and the cons. Okay. All right. Next question from Cheston. Question asked, how can I get better at finding, hiring, engaging resources, people to help me carry my vision forward so I can finally get out of the business of doing everything for the business? And the description behind it is, I'm trying to build a SaaS platform while trying to keep my existing digital marketing agency afloat, just enough to continue generating the monthly revenue I need. I want to get to a point I can either completely offload the digital marketing work or engage others to help build out my SaaS vision. How can I get better at finding, evaluating, and delegating all the work that needs to get done? I find myself stuck doing tasks I know I shouldn't be doing. But I've been unable to find or provide sufficient instruction resources people of helping. Number one, you're in the right spot. Accelerators organization is a dynamic group to really reach out to other people, because I'm sure many of the people who are members have gone through this already. And it really comes down to, I think it is hard to hire people right now, but the ones that are doing well, even in this crazy environment, they have a culture, they have a mission, they have a vision, there's a purpose to go there to work every day. And for what I see, and I'm in the recruiting business, I see a lot more people basically saying, I want to go to those kind of companies. And it's all about flexibility. If you don't have a culture right now that is flexible, has a little bit of the hybrid, remote and all, and really understanding, it is going to be hard to find more employees. You can't be as rigid as you used to be, especially if you want to hire the best and the brightest. So be careful about that, but you want to make sure that you use the AO group here and really reach out to other members who have gone through significant growth and have hired great people, and what that secret is, because everybody's going to tell you a little bit different secret in there. And we have a great culture here, but it didn't happen overnight. I mean, my company's 14 years old now, but we do a lot of things to make our team members feel very appreciative and taken care of and safe. And I think that's key. I think we did that really well last year during COVID. And if you have a tendency to make your people feel safe and a lot of communication and make them feel needed, that really helps, because then you can do an employee referral program and get more people in through your employee referral program as well. We do a lot of that. I would say 80% of my people coming on board are employee referrals, and I'll take an employee referral any day, because my colleagues' reputation is on the line, right? And so it's worked out really well for us. I hope that helps you, but use AO to the best ability that you can. There's so many great people that talk about this and have done very well by listening to all the tools that Sean offers, okay? Okay, anybody out there wants to ever interrupt and talk, feel free, okay? All right, next question is from Liv. Hello, Liv. How do you pay yourself from your business? And her description is, I'm going to start paying myself and want to know the best way to do so. Should I be paid as a W-2 employee, a 1099 contractor, or is there another strategy? My company is an LLC. I think that really depends. You know, from day one, I always paid myself through an outsourced payroll company. I was an LLC when I first started, and I did it that way. I didn't want to deal with taxes quarterly, so I didn't. And it depends. You can actually do it where you're giving yourself a monthly check. You just got to be careful of the taxes at year end. If you have something to offset, if you have higher expenses, you know, to offset that, it's a little different. It really depends upon what you want and where you want to, you know, go from there. And I'm an S Corp now, which is it's very different. I'm still W-2, but I have a lot of friends who are S Corp that basically just do a shared distribution. I just think you got to be careful with that, because of the fact of the IRS looks at to make sure your W-2 is more than your shared distributions. But with that kind of question, you might want to talk to specifically, you know, an accountant who's really good in doing taxes and doing tax returns to find out what's best for you. The hard part is a lot of people don't always save enough money for taxes. And taxes, unfortunately, they don't go away. There's something that you just, I'm never going to pay them. You have to pay them. If you don't, you have penalties and interest. And what has killed many companies is basically tax evasion, meaning they hadn't paid them for years. And what happens is when you have penalties, you have interest, and it's so overwhelming that they have to declare bankruptcy. So don't fall into that trap. That's why I'm an accountant by trade, so I always want the safe road. And I specifically had gotten a payroll company that I outsourced to do my paycheck. And to this day, I still do the same thing. I hope that helps you. Michelle, next question is, what are the most important pieces that you must have implemented in your business before making your first hire? Is a company handbook needed before the first hire? What else would be necessary? And Michelle owns a holiday wedding and event lighting company. I'm looking to hire another person to help install lights at our home. and business. I want to make sure we have everything in place before making the first hire. I think it depends. If you have the time, it's definitely worth it to have a handbook ahead of time, because you want to make sure that you have specific. Hey, when are my holidays? Is there work hours? Hey, what happens if somebody passes in my family? Do you give bereavement leave? Hey, what about your PTO? When can I take it? Is it accrued? Do I get all that time at first? Should I have a cell phone? Can I have a company cell phone? Pieces like that should be indicated in your handbook. But let's get real. A lot of companies start hiring people without any of that in play. The hard part comes is that when these questions pop up, and the question is, hey, do we have an answer for that? So a handbook just helps you have answers in front of you when those questions pop up. It also helps you a legal perspective too, because if they ever sue you, one of the first places that an employment attorney is going to say is, where's your handbook? And did they read it? And did they sign it when they came on board? So don't go the cheap road here. Have something in play. There's actually a lot of documents online out there that do templates for handbook. Just a basic handbook you need. Don't go crazy. And in regards to your first hire, like I didn't hire a first W-2 employee till after 3 years in business. 3 years. I had mostly 1099s. And I had to tell her, she came from a place that had benefits. I didn't have benefits. I had a salary, and that was it. And then we fixed it over the years, and now we have a really nice benefits package. We have dental, we have an EAP, I have an HSA. I added all those things over time, but I was very, very honest with her, and I said, listen, grow with me, trust me on this. I said, just give me some time, but we're going to get all these things to help you out with that. And she's still with me to this day, and we've got some really nice benefits coming on board. But when you start, it's really hard to do all that because it's expensive. So figure out, and be honest of what you can and what you can't do. But what I could tell you is don't go crazy on benefits when you first start. You can always add down the road. It gets expensive. And your expense for 5 people is a lot different than expense for 10 people, and then 20 people, and 30 people. You can always add, you just can't take away. Okay, so those are the most important things. I also want to make sure too, in regards to when you have your hire, you can hire somebody as a W-2, but on an hourly basis, meaning that they only work the hours that you give them. So it's not, a full, hey, I'm going to give you $60,000 a year. You can do that if you divide that by the number 2080, which is the amount of hours that a normal person works a year. That's not us. That means normal person. That's a joke, guys. Anyway, and so when you do that, you figure out their hourly rate. And you could always say, I'm going to give you this hourly rate is this, because if I do 2080, if I get you on board full time, you'll be at 60. But until I have enough work, I'm going to still give you and be fair about basically having you pay for that. And if you do a W-2 for them, you're paying their payroll taxes and all, which is great. And then what happens is you only have so many hours you have to pay for and be responsible for, depending upon how your client is. And when I first started too, I used to tell them, like, listen, I'm going to pay you once a month. And now everybody looks at you like you're nuts. But it worked for me because they believed in what we were trying to do. So I think the more honest that you are about where you're going, what your vision is, what you can afford, you want to make sure that you have all that. But don't spill the beans too much, because they only need to hear that they're getting paid. And you want to make sure that you have that growth projection of where you're going and what you're doing. Okay? It's a fine line, but don't overthink it. That's all. Next question. Kimberly, what strategy or ideas would you recommend we do to have HR and team leaders send their employees to our clinic and our associates clinics on a regular basis? Okay, so let me talk about the background here. We have a new corporate massage program that targets mid-sized and large companies. We help decrease soft tissue pain and stress of employees, creating improved productivity and happier employees, and thank goodness you are there. We connect companies with massage therapy clinics and maintain a fee for doing so. We also do virtual one-on-ones for employees and webinars for large teams to educate employees about stress and soft tissue prevention and treatments. That just sounds wonderful, by the way. So the question again is, what strategy or ideas would you recommend we do to have HR and team leaders send their employees to our clinic and associates? So it's a fine line, right? Because yes, it's definitely a benefit. I wasn't sure if you could actually package it as a voluntary benefit for their team or a perk to their companies. I can tell you my team would absolutely love if I said, hey, here's a perk, or maybe giving like a 10% off perk, or a coupon for them to say, hey, here's 10%. It's a benefit of this company, but here's a group that we recommend you go to. I highly recommend that. And you also might, and when people are getting back into the offices, you might want to have like employee appreciation days where you go to their offices and perform like, I don't know, like 15-minute back massages or neck massages, and everybody needs a neck massage today. So just be creative how you do that. And HR is trying to help that company. That's their number one role, is to maintain that the company stays out of trouble on the employee side. But you want to make sure if you could do it to help and add value to that HR, that's what you want to do to them. Because I feel there's so much stress going on right now and anxiety that anything you could do, like a 10%, or we're going to come in and provide this, we're going to wear masks one person at a time and we clean it each time, things like that would be very clever to do, because once you start having them believe in what you're doing and set up maybe even a subscription program where you come in twice a month and it's all around handling that anxiety and stress relief, I think it's all going to be how you market your program. But those are great ideas. HR is definitely looking for a lot more ways to give benefits and incentivize people to come on board too. So I think you're onto something here. I think you got to put a little bit more time and effort into it, but there's some great ideas here to offer some voluntary benefits to their employees. Okay, hope that helped you. Hey Heather Stern. What are some good responses when your employees are constantly saying how tired they are, comparing themselves to you, saying they aren't robots like me? Yeah, so I hear you there loud and clear. And the description is, my groomers work 4 days as a full-time shift, and most of them, they have 10 hours. Most have a bather with them. I get so tired of hearing how tired they are all the time. I lay out the potential for them to make more money than any other company in Houston, yet all I hear is how overworked they are. I get you, Heather, and I think all of us as employers, we're all going through this, and I would just say, you know what, I'm really sorry to hear that. You just gotta let that go. And if they're tired, like we're all tired, like hang in there together. And it's really hard to be that cheerleader sometimes too, but it's more along the lines of, hey guys, make it a great day, send out those positive vibes and all as much as you possibly can. And I know it's hard. It's hard because I know, Heather, you're going through a lot right now too. So I hear you, but I think sometimes it's the hardest part is being a CEO, because we are the biggest cheerleader, right? So we have to wear toothpicks in our cheeks all the time. Because if I know I don't, and if I'm down, my team is like, oh my God, what's wrong with the company? Are we okay? And so it's unfortunate. But then maybe have like your two people in the office that you really rely on. Like I truly rely on my executive team, and they are like my voice out there too. And honestly, they're the ones that I say, hey, how are things going? And be that positive voice out there. And so they really help me become that positive person. So it's not just me. I don't want it to all come on me. That's a lot on your shoulders. You're going to have to go to get that massage over with Kimberly next. But, I think you really want to make sure that you set that expectation, like we're in this together. I know it's a lot of work. I feel you. I understand. And I'll just bear with me. We really appreciate you being here. And, what else can we do to help out? But I don't know what else to tell you with that, because you're always going to have the naysayers. But I just think there's going to be other people there saying, hey, let's get this together. Be the cheerleader out there for me too. You might also, want to have maybe weekly conversations, and just, what we do with our L10 meetings, we always start off with good news. Let's talk about good news. And when you start actually having good news conversations, people act as if they're in a good mood. And it really starts out quite differently. When COVID hit last year, we did a small 15-minute conversation on Zoom every day for 3 months. And when I first started it, and everybody was just, high anxiety was up through the roof, right? And I actually asked the question, how are you feeling today? And then when I start hearing, do I have a job, high anxiety, the kids are home, I was like, oh my God, I got to change the question. So I started asking them, what's one positive thing that happened to you today? And they started giving me these great responses and one impact that you made today. And then they became very proud of bringing that to the table. And that changed the entire environment. So I think if you could set it up, something like that, or have a call early in the morning, get them all pumped up and just say, these are great things happen, and have them talk, I think that's going to help you a little bit too. So hang in there. But if you have other questions, Heather, you know how to get a hold of me, okay? Brad Coleman. Brad's question is, do you think it is important to have a face behind the brand? And his description is, hello, I own a luxury e-commerce brand, and I want to know if it's important to you to have a face behind the brand, meaning behind the scene videos, introductions, etc., so your customers know who they're buying from. I don't plan on staying anonymous, but right now I am still small and don't have a lot to show behind the scenes I want shown. Thank you. Okay. I think it depends. You know, honestly, I think there's a trust factor that goes along with the face. And I joined a video mastermind this past, about 6 weeks ago now. And I have videos all over the place now on social media. One of my fears was I hated being in front and taking videos of myself and having these little snippets out there. And my team's been telling me for months to do that because we have a good reputation out there. People really like us. They trust us. But it's really hard for me to be, you know, in the spotlight. It's not my thing. And I had to take this. I wanted to take this video class to get that fear away from me, because I have to keep in mind this isn't about so much me. It's about my entire team and how they look at us as a whole company. And so now I do these videos, and this week's challenge is a video per day for 7 days. But it's working. And I came up with, like, you know, 7 tips in 7 days for employee engagement. And ironically enough, we're getting a lot of views, and people are coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I saw your video and blah, blah, blah. But people are getting to know us and understanding who we are as a company. There's a face. I include my team in a lot of them, and they're getting to know us as who we are as people. So I do think it's important to have a face. I think more people are more visual than you can ever imagine, and I think that's going to be coming even more so. But it is hard to get started, and you don't need a lot of props behind you. We sometimes just, you know, get by a window and we start talking, and we make it up as we go along, because sometimes it is impromptu or a lot more real and trustworthy than basically staging it out. So I do believe it's important. Okay, Brad? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, okay? And the next one is from AJ. Hey, AJ. How do you begin training my first hire? So Sean is first question here for me. Yahoo! Keep them coming, Sean. I'm about 8 months into the entrepreneurial journey, and I'm quickly learning that I don't have the time or bandwidth to accomplish anything myself. Yep. Welcome to the entrepreneur world. My business is a growth agency that includes web development, and I've had a skilled friend working on a project-by-project basis for the last 6 months. We're financially at the point to support hiring him part-time, and I'm excited to be training him to do many of the low-value tasks that are currently on my plate. But I'm also nervous about this, as I know that many first hires don't work out well. I've also seen how a training process can make or break someone who would otherwise be a good team member. So you're already 8 months into it, and you've been working with this person for 6 months. So that's a good sign, and you haven't basically hurt each other. That's even a better sign. Now, it took me 3 years before I hired my first full-time person. So for the fact that you're in it 8 months and ready to hire is a really great sign. I think the biggest thing is to making sure that, you know, you have the funds to pay for payroll. That's the big concern of anybody coming aboard full-time. Now, even if you're hiring them part-time, like I said before, you take that salary, you divide it by 20/80, you can figure out an hourly rate for them, and you just want to be honest and clear. But you do want to have an offer letter. You do want to have something in place to say, I'm going to be paying you X amount per hour doing this kind of line of work. And you know, you might actually want to have, you know, depending upon your state, sometimes you can fire somebody at any time. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, like California is a whole different country. But you want to make sure that you're very clear about that. But if you're ready to go. I would say just make sure you have in your mind 3 months of payroll for this person and figure out how that's going to work, because as a 1099 you can hire him at 1099 and then you can let him go anytime you want if you need to. That can protect you. But at 1099 for me, I didn't feel like I was creating that team. I wasn't creating a reason for them to stay, because of the fact that 1099 they have to pay for their own taxes quarterly too. So these are all the questions that you want to think about, because now, do you want 1099 and have them pay for taxes, or do you want W-2 where you're paying for taxes and they're paying for taxes, but at least you know it's going out every quarter, those taxes, if you have an outsourced payroll agency. So these are all the things you want to think about, and be very clear about expectations. Not sure if you have a job description, but sometimes having a job description about exactly what is expected for that will help you as well. If you have any questions on that, AJ, feel free to reach out to me, okay? I'm pretty accessible. And that is it. That is all the questions I have today, guys. Wow. That's amazing. All right, people out there. We got Nick. We got Shelly. What do you guys have for me? Any other questions going on?
Okay.
No? You're good? All right. Thanks, Nick. Got the thumbs up. Shelly, I'm sure we're talking to you on Monday, right? She's in her mode there. And then I know we have Honey down there. Hello, Honey. All right, guys. Well, that's
Hi.
hi. So that's the show for today. Hang in there with HR. Don't forget, there's a lot of stuff happening with the Biden's plan. So make sure that your team is on top of that. What's going on out there in regards to like the leaves and employers paying for all that. That is coming down the pike. So be careful about those new details. Any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me, moconnor@tocgrp.com. All right, guys. Stay well, stay safe, and enjoy the beautiful weather. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Da-da-da. Da-da-da.